Hey everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More. Welcome to another one of my real estate agent, real estate investing videos on YouTube. Today I'm going to do a real estate agent video. I haven't done one for a long time, so I figured it's about time I did one. Before we get started, of course, check out investformore.com. I have a ton of free articles. I've got my podcast, a lot of cool stuff going on there. One reason I made this video is because I have a coaching program, the Six-Figure Real Estate Agent Success System, and we do conference calls on that twice a month. Well, for our most recent conference call, nobody showed up. So, I do a 15-minute presentation, have time to answer questions on those calls, and since no one showed up, I'm going to do a video, kind of have this in lieu of the conference call since nobody was there. So let's get started. What I want to talk about is not lead generation, not getting clients, but taking care of the clients that you do have and moving through a transaction smoothly. I mean, so many people are focused on getting leads, on finding new people to work with, but one of the best ways to be successful as an agent is to take care of the clients you have, to get referrals from them, and to have business come to you without having to constantly advertise and market yourself. And the way you do that is by taking really good care of your clients, making sure a transaction goes smoothly, and being proactive throughout the entire process. We have a few people on my team. We had to let go an agent recently, which is never fun, but it happens. And one thing that you'll see with the really good agents, the ones who do really well, we have a couple agents on our team who made over $100,000 their first year. That was their cut after all the fees and splits. And those who don't do so well is the way they generate leads and the way they listen to their training, and of course, the hard work they put into it. So one agent who didn't do very well, didn't listen very well, and kind of once you got a house under contract, it's like, oh, okay, the process is done. I can move on to finding new buyers, new sellers. I don't have to worry about them. But as a real estate agent, you have to take care of your clients. Once you find them a house, once you sell their house, you're not done. The process won't just take care of itself. You have to help them go through title company, title policies, lenders, inspections, appraisals, closings. Your job is not done when you get the house under contract. And the better job you do getting your buyers or sellers through that process, the more business you'll have in the future because the buyers and sellers will remember that. So when you get a house under contract, if you're the listing agent, you usually choose the title company. It's very important you choose a very good title company, someone who will take care of your clients, be very good at communicating, very good at telling the seller what's going to happen, the buyer what's going to happen. And many title companies will even go over the whole closing process, everything that happens with your buyer or seller, if they are experienced with closing, which is really nice for new agents if you don't know everything yourself. You can kind of say, hey, this closing process, this closing company has a little class, a little presentation they give. Maybe you can go sit in that to see exactly how it will go. And you can sit in there with it. With them, help you learn as your clients learn. Don't have to tell them you don't know anything, but it's one way to get around that being new as an agent. Some things we've seen with title companies is giving buyers or sellers the wrong figures. You get your figures before closing, says how much money the buyer has to bring to buy the house or how much money the seller is going to get to sell the house. And they will have the wrong figures sometimes. It's a pain, it's not easy, but as an agent, you need to know how those figures are calculated, what they mean, what all those numbers are. I'm not going to go through that. All those are different in each state, but your broker, your training, your real estate classes should have taught you some of those numbers and figures. You need to know those. Work with your title company. If you don't know them, they can help you out, figure out what they all mean. And you should be going over those figures with your client before closing to make sure they're comfortable with it. They know what's going on. There's nothing more awkward than going to closing and the closer or attorney, whoever it is, says, hey, have you seen your figures yet? And the seller says, nope. Or the buyer says, nope. And they're like, okay, would you like to go over them? They're like, sure. And they go over them and the buyer doesn't know what something means, or they're confused, or it's a different number than they thought it would be. That is very embarrassing. That should never happen if you go over those figures before closing. Make sure everything's good. All right, something else to consider if you're working with a buyer. Or if you're working with a seller, lenders. There are good lenders, there are bad lenders, and there are many in between. Just because someone works at a bank, just because they call themselves a lender, does not mean they know what they're doing. We have had so many lenders kill deals because they're lazy, they don't know what they're doing, or they just don't care. A few examples of how deals got messed up recently. On some of the flips I was selling, our closing just got delayed 3 weeks because the lender, I have a house that's for sale, and the buyers who are buying that house had to sell a house to buy my house. So they had kind of a string of deals going on. So the buyers of my house were selling their house, and the buyers who were buying their house, their lender did not order the appraisal until 3 weeks after the house is under contract. That should be ordered like the first thing a lender does, especially in Colorado where appraisers are really hammered and really busy. It can take 3 weeks to get an appraisal done, even longer. So because that lender messed up and didn't order that appraisal until 3 weeks, that delayed our entire closing 3 weeks. I was not happy about that. There's nothing I could really do. We can check up on the agent who has our house under contract, make sure that everything's going good with them. But it's kind of hard for us to check up on the agent who has the buyer's house under contract. It's like a string of 2 or 3 different agents down the line. So you have to make sure those lenders are in check. Another thing we've had happen is lenders who didn't turn in FHA appraisals into the FHA system. That's a little more complicated, but basically when an FHA appraisal is done, it sticks to a property for 6 months, and the lender is supposed to turn that into the FHA system. Well, because the lender didn't do that, they had to order a new FHA appraisal that came in $10,000 lower than the first one. So it cost the sellers $10,000 because this lender did not turn in the first FHA appraisal. That lender got turned in to FHA. They're being investigated right now. They're not real happy with this, but hey, they messed up, not us. They really messed up the seller. It cost them $10,000 by doing that. So you can't always rely on lenders to do everything. Just because they say everything will be done, it'll be perfect, doesn't mean that will happen. One way to avoid that is use lenders who have a really good reputation. Get referrals from your broker, from other agents. Don't just use any old lender off the street. Just because they say they're awesome, that doesn't mean they're awesome. And another thing that really helps, if you're the listing agent, you're representing the seller, and you have a contract come in, another agent's representing the buyer, that does not mean you cannot contact the buyer's lender. That doesn't mean you can't check up on the buyer's agent. Check to make sure everything's going okay. Many agents are lazy. They won't check with lenders. They won't make sure everything's going well. They just drop the ball. So as a listing agent, being proactive will help you out so much. It'll make your sellers happy too. Every week, check with the agent. Hey, how's the lending process going? Is the appraisal ordered? Is your inspection done yet? All that going good? Make sure they're on top of things. It's kind of frustrating as an agent having to do 2 jobs at once, but it makes you look really good if you can pull it off. And it will stop many problems from happening from the get-go, making your closings happen sooner, which means you get paid sooner, and your client's happier. Another thing you have to be very proactive on is appraisals. Like I said, appraisals are taking forever here in Colorado. It's really frustrating. Not much we can do about it, but making sure the appraisal is ordered right away by the lender. As soon as that house is under contract, they should be ordering the appraisal. Then, once the appraisal is scheduled, it is not out of the question for you to send that appraiser comps to meet them, to help them out any way you can. We are actually encouraged to do that by our real estate commission. So we can send them comps for the neighborhood, help them figure out exactly what they need to value the property. Now, we're not trying to say, hey, this house has to be $220, or we're not going to do business with you or anything like that. And if the appraiser seems put off or doesn't like us helping them, we'll back off. But if they want our help, we will give it to them happily. All right, another thing is inspections. Of course, you want to make sure your buyer has a good inspector. Seller, make sure the inspections are not going too crazy. And really work well with the buyer. Try not to ask for everything in the world. That can really put off the seller. Try to find that middle ground, that happy ground, and that will make things go so much better. But overall, Just try to be interactive, part of the whole process. Don't just sit in your chair and hope everything goes well. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk again soon.